A grieving widow writes a children's book to help her 3 young boys cope with the loss of their father. How could this happen? He was only 39 years old, but soon the sad story would take a horrific turn. The accidental death turned into murder charges. The story became a cover for a tale of secret affairs, life insurance policies, poisonings, and murder. Sometimes things aren't what they seem, and pretty faces can hide a dark truth. This episode is brought to you by Chaos Rules in Madhouse, Madison County, Missouri. This rural community should be a safe place, but it hides a dark secret. Fredericktown is one of the most dangerous places to live in America. With a crime rate of 31 per 1,000 residents, Fredericktown has one of the highest crime rates compared to all communities of all sizes. I started researching one case sent to me by a desperate grandmother that led me to 15 more. Then I realized this county has had murder, corruption, and chaos since before the Wild West days. This book will start with a lynching by a Fredericktown mob in 1844 and will end up in an explosion. Hold on to your seats when you read this one. You're in for a wild, chaotic ride through rural Missouri. Check out my new book, Madhouse, Madison County, today.
We are talking about a case that's in the news currently. So this is something that we have to start off this whole show by saying one gigantic allegedly. Now, the reason why is because this woman has been accused of several things. We're going to show you documentation. We're going to show you court documents. We're going to show you police incident reports. We're going to show you all of the things. We're going to tell you all of the things that we have researched and found out. But this woman is presumed guilty until proven. She's presumed guilty. Proved. I've seen way too many documents. She is presumed innocent until the court proves her as guilty. So we have to say allegedly on all of these things. So we'll just plaster one gigantic allegedly here, and I will throw that out eventually in a few other spaces. For those of you that have actually read the book that was advertised at the beginning of the show, Madhouse Madison, I created a big allegedly sign in the middle of that book. It was an opera singer standing in the middle of a boxing ring singing allegedly at the top of her lungs. I created that little meme and put it in the middle of the book, and so I really need to print that out. I thought I did, but I couldn't find it when I went to look for it earlier. So allegedly is what we're going to title this whole thing. Now, like I said, we are going to be showing you a lot of court documents, and we're going to be showing you a lot of filings. And then we're going to leave it up to you, and I will follow this case until it comes to a conclusion. And we'll have to wait and see, because we're getting all this information here. And I will say there's a lot of information, a lot of documents public already, which I find somewhat unusual. But if the jury doesn't see all this, the judge can determine that some of this stuff the jury shouldn't see. And if the jury doesn't see all of this, they may come to a different conclusion. And so we will have to wait and see. And I will follow this case. If you guys are interested, I will follow it through until we get a conviction or an acquittal. I will let you know. But we're talking about the death of Eric Richins. Now, Eric Richins was a 39-year-old man. He owned his own business. He had a wife and 3 young boys. They lived in Utah. Now, on March 4th, 2022, 911 got a phone call saying that Eric was unresponsive. Now, the EMTs came in. They told his wife, who had called, to start trying to do chest compressions, and she said that she did those. Of course, we'll find out later that it was questionable to whether she actually did CPR or not. The EMTs really didn't think it looked like that. that first they thought this man died in the middle of the night, about 3 o'clock in the morning. They thought he died of a brain aneurysm. Well, they went ahead and did an autopsy and found out that that was not the case. Eric Richins had died of a fentanyl poisoning, of an overdose of fentanyl. He had 5 times the amount to kill a person in his system. He had ingested it orally, and he had 5 times the amount to kill him. Now, while the police are on the scene, getting all of the reports, finding out what happened, before they've deciding to point the finger at anybody, before they've done anything, his wife, which is named Kouri had given them some information. She said that they were celebrating a business contract, or that she was getting, that she was celebrating a purchase of a home. She bought homes and renovated them and flipped them. And she had supposedly got this contract for this home, and they were supposedly celebrating. So a little bit after 9 o'clock, she said that she made her husband a Moscow Mule, which is a mixed drink, and she gave it to him. Then he went to bed, and she said she did not sleep in the same room with him. She said her phone was almost dead, so she plugged it in by the bed, but one of their sons had a tendency for nightmares, so she slept in his room. About 3 o'clock in the morning, she ended up going back to her own bed. She said that that's when she found out that Eric was cold and unresponsive, so she called 911. These are statements that she willfully gave to police. This is the narrative that she is talking as they're doing their jobs. This is what she has just on her own free will has said to the police. Well, they're going to find out that everything she stated wasn't accurate. What people don't realize is when someone is a forensic investigator gets a hold of your phone, they can tell when it's turned on. They can tell when it's turned off. They can tell if the screen's been locked, the screen's been unlocked. They can literally track the movement of that cell phone through your home. They can tell if you've texted somebody, if you've done Google search. They can see everything that you've ever done with that cell phone anytime it's knocked off the table and lands on the floor. They can track that. Okay. So the first lie that they have found, because she has said that, this is what they didn't ask her or interrogate her. This is the information she just willfully gave. She slept in the other room. The phone was dead. It was plugged in at the nightstand on her side of the bed in her bedroom. This, they found out, was not true. They found out that the phone had been moved. The phone had been turned on several different times during that time frame between 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning. There had been texts sent and received and deleted. So all of these things you'll find out had been done during that time frame that she said her phone was not moved. It was plugged in the bedroom. So to move on the case of the story, there's so much little details and rabbit trails we're going to go down. I'm going to try to just give a quick overview first. So that's the first thing that police notice. Oh, that's not quite right. Well, immediately, Eric's family reaches out to police and said, listen, our brother believed she was going to kill him. He told us that if anything ever happened to him, you need to look at my wife. So the police are automatically starting to get wary. They start to check things. They start to investigate things. Then they find out that he died of fentanyl poisoning. Then they keep going on through their processes and their research, and they find out that this man not only had recently, in the last, I believe it was within the last year, I believe, he had taken all of his assets, put them in a secret trust, and didn't put his wife as beneficiary or trustee on that. He put it in a secret trust for his 3 sons and put his sister as the trustee and the beneficiary. Okay. In this process of time, you'll find out that his wife had her own little side business of flipping these houses. He was a successful businessman. He was worth probably $5 million or approximately at this time. She, on the other hand, at the time of his death, she said that she had enough assets to cover her liabilities, but after the forensic accountants got online and started studying all of her financial transactions, not only did they find some fraudulent transactions where she had forged some signatures and basically stolen almost $500,000 from her husband's business and different things, you'll find that she was in debt about $3.1 million. So her husband is worth $5 million. She's $3 million in debt. Okay. At the time of his death. Now you'll also start digging in. You'll find out that without Eric's knowledge, she had taken out in 2015 and 2017. Between that time frame, she had signed up for approximately 4 different life insurance policies that there was no evidence that Eric knew anything about. He did not, his family believes that he did not know about those. And the reason being is when you fast forward a few years later, when he goes and takes all of his estate basically away from her, he didn't include those policies because he didn't know anything about them. So even at this point, things are starting to look a little bit shady towards his wife. Okay, so then you'll find out that during this whole thing, yes, she was having an affair with a handyman. You'll also find out that she had a housekeeper that she worked with that cleaned the houses that she was flipping. This woman also is a convicted felon, convicted on drug trafficking and drug possession and distribution. She had trouble with the law for drugs. You'll find out that there was a time where while Kouri is texting and having her affair with her boyfriend on the side, you'll find out that she contacted this housekeeper and asked for drugs. She wanted drugs. She actually asked for the Michael Jackson stuff, which is actually propofol. Then 2 or 3 days later, after the housekeeper delivers fentanyl. She didn't get propofol. She got fentanyl. After she delivers this, you'll find 3 days later happens to be Valentine's Day, February of 2022. February of 2022, Eric's at work. Eric works a lot. Eric works hard trying to take care of his family. He's working on Valentine's Day. His wife calls and gets him his favorite sandwich from his favorite restaurant and delivers, this nice, wonderful lunch to him, and leaves it in his truck with a note and all this, how wonderful, romantic stuff. He gets in there and he goes to eat that sandwich. He ends up extremely, extremely ill. He gets so sick, his face starts to swell. He feels like he's suffocating, feels like he can't breathe. He is so panic stricken. He grabs his son's EpiPen out of wherever he had it in the glove box or whatever, stabs himself with the EpiPen, downs a whole big, overdoses himself with Benadryl, and ends up passing out for 3 or 4 hours. After he wakes from this stupor and gets himself put together and gets himself under control, he calls his business partner, which is his best friend, calls his business partner and says, I really think Kouri tried to kill me. And he tells what happened. Now, for those of you that don't know what fentanyl does to the person, I listened to a doctor on Nancy Grace. You can watch it if you want. He explained to Nancy what happens to the body when someone gets fentanyl poisoning. And it's literally exactly what Eric said he felt. He said, everything starts shutting down. It goes to the brain. And then you start suffocating because everything, all of your muscles and everything stop reacting. It's like it paralyzes you almost, and you get to where you can't breathe. You feel like your throat's closing up. And he says it's not really closing up. It's just all of those muscles are forgetting how to work. All of those tendons, all those automatic responses that your subconscious mind handle, your breathing mechanisms, they start to freeze. So you literally suffocate within yourself. And he's like, that's immediately what he felt. So he gave himself an EpiPen, which overdosed his body with adrenaline. That, and then he overdosed himself with Benadryl, and then he went to sleep. Now, it's just by grace that he survived that, because nobody has been able to overcome fentanyl poisoning with Benadryl and an EpiPen. So you think her defense team is trying to say, well, that could have just been food poisoning and he was overreacting. That was just an allergic reaction. He was overreacting. Well, if you believe that, you also have to read through these text messages. She is leaving her husband there while he's working, and then he got this poisonous lunch. He got himself put together. Later that evening, he tries to struggle through and coach his kids' little league game, and he gets himself through all of that. Okay, this is Valentine's Day. Where's his wife? His wife's with her boyfriend. Okay. Within a month, her husband would be dead from fentanyl poisoning. But what happened in between there? About 3 or 4 days before he ends up dead from fentanyl poisoning, she contacts her drug dealer, housekeeper lady again. And that text message says, I need another round. I need it stronger. It didn't work last time. So her defense is trying to say this is food poisoning, but then she's literally asking her drug dealer for something stronger because it didn't work last time. I don't know what she's talking about. Maybe she's talking about something else, I'm sure. So her drug dealer supplies her with more pills, more fentanyl pills. She makes a cocktail of something that has ginger beer in it. Now, this doctor that was on the show was telling Nancy, how would you mask fentanyl, and does fentanyl have a taste? And he says, yes, fentanyl has a real extremely bitter taste. So you would want something really strong tasting to compensate, or you would taste it. He said the perfect thing would be a Moscow Mule, because the ginger in that will mask the taste. He said that's the perfect concoction if you're going to do this. And I'm like, great. Oh, this is horrible. So he's saying, yes, he could have drunk that without noticing that his wife or somebody allegedly put this in his drink. Now, he ends up drinking this Moscow Mule, and he's gone. Now, in between all of that, you're going to find out that there's some very suspicious text messages that they found with the boyfriend. There's some very suspicious text messages that they found with the housekeeping, drug producing lady. You're going to find there's all these suspicious text messages. And if that's not enough, the day after her husband is found dead, she closes on this big multi-million-dollar deal. She bought this big, huge place for $2 million. And this was supposed to be the big deal, this big mega mansion that was never finished. It was abandoned before the project was ever finished. She was going to finish it, and if she came in, she could make millions of dollars on this deal. Well, her husband, according to his family, said that he didn't want to do that because he felt like it was too high of a risk, and she already had a bad track record. See, according to her family and the defense side of everything, she was a successful real estate agent and house flipper. Well, in this successful career, she had defaulted on loans. She had charged up $250,000 on her husband's line of credit without him knowing. She had charged up $30,000 on his credit card. She had stolen, allegedly, $134 and change worth of his tax money that his company sets aside for his quarterly tax bill. At one point, she had stolen or borrowed from her husband's business almost $500,000. Okay. When he approached her with this, she said she would pay it back. Okay. But that's also the point where he no longer trusted his wife. That's also when he secretly met with an estate planning attorney to go ahead and find a way to spare his assets from his wife's bad money experiences. He wanted his estate to go to his sons, and he didn't. At this point, it looked like he no longer trusted his wife to make the right decisions on behalf of their children. So, according to the family, there's no documentation to verify this. This is just hearsay. According to the family, he did not want that home. The next day, she followed through on it. Now, here's the bad thing. It looked as if her whole business was based and backed on the fact of her husband's wealth. And if it wasn't for her constantly siphoning money off of him, she wouldn't have got the deal in the first place. That's what it looked like. Of course, we'll have to wait through. And see how it comes out in court. Tammy says, "Good thing I don't like ginger." Agreed. Don't ever drink anything with ginger. Doodlebug says he immediately thought it was her and not the restaurant. That says so much. Absolutely. You're going to see there's several different things that happened. So where was I? Tammy, where was I? I lost it.
Everything, you laid everything out.
What?
Well, you had, the money that she said was based on his money.
Right. Okay, thank you. So basically, there's so many rabbit trails. I'm sorry if I'm stumbling. I'm trying to get the basic overview, and this case is so crazy. So after his death, the next day, she buys the place that his family said he didn't want. Then she turns around and hosts a big party there. Okay, so she hosts a big party for all of her friends and everybody celebrating this big deal. And I'm like, most people that lose their husband and have 3 small children aren't going to be in the right frame of mind to host a party. Okay. Now, allegedly, according to statements the family made in court, she wasn't capable. She was too distraught to help with funeral plans, but she went ahead and did all these things. Okay. So that's another one of those hearsay things. I can't guarantee that is, I won't say that they're lying about it, but I have no actual physical proof to validate that. So she is a little lax concerning her taking care of her husband's his final needs, getting him ready, and preparing him and taking care of his final wishes. She can't get herself to do that, but she can party with her friends and buy the house that he didn't want. Now, if that's not bad enough, things continue on, and within a couple days, she decides she's going to get in her husband's. She's still in the house with the boys. She's going to get in her husband's safety, his safe. Well, she can't find the keys to it, and so she calls a locksmith, and the locksmith comes in and is going to drill out the lock on the safe. Well, the sister shows up to the property and says, "You don't have a right to do that." Well, she flies into a rage and says, "This is my house. You get out of my house. This is my safe. I can do what I want with my safe." Well, this is when she is rudely awakened by the truth that her husband has not left her the house. He has not left her the estate. He has not left her his half of the successful company he run. He left it all to his sons, in care of his sons, and his sister was the executor on this trust. And so this is where she finds out. Well, she gets in a physical altercation, and she literally assaults her sister-in-law, her former sister-in-law, when she finds out that her husband had had tricked her in this way because she felt like she deserved all of this. And you will find in the text messages to the boyfriend that she literally says she would leave him, but she can't divorce him because she wasn't satisfied with half of his things. Well, according to the prenuptial agreement, she wouldn't have gotten half of his things anyways. So she knew that. And she knew that if she only got her stuff, then her stuff was $3 million worth of debt. So she had taken out all these life insurance policies, and these life insurance policies, you'll find out that that was only going to be $1.9 million. Just a few months or a few weeks before he died, you will find that she tried to do something else. Now, you've got two men who have a highly successful business. They did a standard practice of getting a life insurance policy on each other that benefited each other. So if one or the other of the guys died, then they would get a substantial life insurance policy. And the way the company was, all the documentation and it was all set up, the remaining surviving partner was required to buy out the other partner using the life insurance policy. So what would happen is everything would now be owned by the partner. Okay. And then they would be able to pay that by the life insurance policy. So it just stabilized the business to where if one of the two partners dies, the company doesn't go under. Okay. Well, she had gotten in and logged in with his information, allegedly. Again, we're going to flash the allegedly. She had gotten in and logged in and changed the beneficiary on the life insurance for him on his business from his business partner to her. So she had put herself as a beneficiary on his life insurance policy. Well, of course, the insurance company thought this was a little odd, and so they contacted him. And he immediately put it back and informed the insurance company, do not change it again under any circumstances, unless I myself tell you to. And so she had literally tried to steal the life insurance policy for his business and his business partner. So if that's not shocking enough, and I'm skipping over so much, within a year of his decease, she writes a children's book about grieving, supposedly. And she writes this children's book because she says her sons are struggling with the loss of their dad, and she wants them to know that their dad is still with them, just in a different way. And so it's a story, a children's picture book about how to handle grief using the 3 C's, and which is basic coaching. You can look that up on the internet, and 5 minutes of that will give you her basics of her education on counseling grief. She had no idea about counseling people on grief. She had no education in it whatsoever. But this was her thing. She goes on a talk show to promote her children's book about grief. And in this children's picture book, I'm going to give you some information about how disturbing this children's book is. But what makes it even more disturbing is within a month, I believe it was, of her going on the show. I'm going to show you this video clip. Within a month of her going on the show to promote her children's book, she's arrested for murdering the man she wrote the children's book about. So this is what I'm going to get a clip lined up. Miss T, Tammy, what's your thoughts so far while I'm looking for this clip?
So if Eric's family hadn't went to the police with questions and wanted an autopsy, she probably would have gotten away with this, right? I mean,
yeah.
And it's
that's what's sad. If they hadn't dug a little deeper, because see, for the first little bit, she did get away with it. Of course, his family knew immediately that that's not what happened. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if they hadn't pushed so hard, she could have likely got away with this. And that's what's scary about it. Okay, so let me get this clip. I'm going to share my screen.
And she still could. We don't know what they're going to say in the trial.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. we're not out of the woods yet. And we have seen so many cases where for some reason or another, which never, to me, I am so far against this. I don't think this should ever be allowed. I have not found one case yet that it should actually be allowed, but they have ways of weaseling around and saying, well, we're not going to show this piece of evidence to the audience. And I'm like, to the jury. And I'm sitting here going, the jury should see everything. I don't care if it biases the jury or not. They should see everything, because to me, everything shows a behavioral pattern and shows what kind of human you're talking about. And so the fact that that is a possibility, there's a strong possibility that this judge is going to say, well, we're not going to show the jury this evidence. We're not going to show the jury that evidence. We're not going to show them this. And then that changes the whole outlay of this case. And so to me, there is a chance she gets off with it. So I'm going to share this. Tammy, let me know when you see this.
Well, I see it. Okay, it's on there.
Okay. So what we're seeing here is a video that she had gone on a local lifestyle type show advertising her children's book. Now, I will talk about her behavior on the show, but let's play this. Let me know if you can hear it, Miss Tammy, when it starts. Okay, this commercial. I apologize for the commercial. I thought I bypassed it, but it's showing us another one.
Okay.
Talking about loss with kids can be a tricky subject. Joining us now is author of Are You With Me? Kouri Richins, to share her 3 C's to helping kids cope with grief. And Kouri, I want to start with your story. What happened in your personal life?
So my husband passed away unexpectedly last year. So it's March 4th was a 1-year anniversary for us. And he was 39. It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year, and hoping that it can kind of help other kids deal with this and kind of find happiness some way or another,
and to make sense and process. I'm sure you felt that.
So see right there, I paused it. Right there, they're trying to ask her, how did she do this? How did you process your grief? How did you get through all of this and write a children's book? And she's stumbling around because she can't tell you how. She don't know. She's trying to stumble around and say, why she wrote the book, how she wrote the book. And then you've got your interviewer, your host, actually spoon-fed her a better answer than what she had for herself. Did you catch that, Tammy?
Yeah, what I noticed the most was that she had her coat on.
Yeah, everybody's like, why'd she keep her coat on? It's because she's insecure. She knows that.
Right.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
I won't finish that sentence. To me, that shows that she's insecure. That's body language showing that she's insecure because she knows what she's saying may not actually be truthful.
Going through and trying to explain it and articulate it for you and your boys.
Yes, exactly. And so I've done,
You've got the host explaining her book to her. You know what I'm saying? And so we're not going to watch this whole thing just because I can't stomach to watch it again. I've watched it several times. I can put a link to it so you guys can watch it later. And I encourage you to do so, just so you can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about here. So everybody is shocked to see, that she's been on this TV show promoting her book. And within a month, she is, within a month after the death, within a year, she has got herself all together and she's wrote a children's book and now she's promoting. Well, you'll find out. I watched an interview with those 2 ladies where the guy was interviewing them saying, did you get any kind of spidey sense? Could you catch anything? And they're like, no, they said they didn't feel anything like she was lying or anything. They just thought she was stiff and cold and thought it was odd she didn't have her coat on. Didn't think she expressed herself real well trying to explain her book. When I write a book, I can tell you about it because it's part of me that I've written down, and I can tell you all about it. Not everybody's good at expressing themselves, so I get that, but it's because her purpose that she wrote that book for, and we can get into that and we can theorize on that and we can allegedly, all of that. Her real purpose for writing that book, I contend, she knew that it's not socially acceptable. So she knew that she couldn't tell those hosts on public TV why she actually wrote that book. I mean, she can't go in there and say, hey, I wrote this as a cover story to make it look good, to make myself look like a grieving widow, to find another way to monetize on my son's pain. She can't go on there and tell the real reasons why she wrote this book, because she wanted more attention, because she wanted more money, because she's a narcissistic control freak who wanted to control how her sons grieve, who wanted to control their grieving process. She can't say all those things. And of course, I got to / allegedly. She can't say all those things. So that's the reason why she's guarded and she's reserved, because she can't tell you exactly why she wrote the book. She wants to say she wants to do it to help other children. Well, you get to get to reading some of the reviews on that book, and everybody found it creepy and disturbing. Now, I'm not going to show you a cover of the book because I don't dare want any of you guys to buy it. I think eventually the family fought and they got it off of Amazon because it was a self-published book. I think eventually they did take it down. I don't think it's available, but just in case it is, I'm not going to show it no more. And I hope all of you don't actually get it. But it's basically a children's book following a little boy who lost his dad. And he steps into the schoolhouse on his first day of school and he says, Dad, are you here? And every picture is a life-changing event for the child that his dad's not there physically. He asks, Dad, are you here? And this little ghost shows up. So it shows a little ghost of his dad that's looking down out of the clouds, and a little ghost of his dad at a ball game, and a little ghost. And she uses her children's real names, and she makes the ghost dad look exactly like her ex-husband or former deceased husband, because they were technically married. So I'm sitting here going, everybody that wrote a review on it said it was creepy. It was disturbing. One guy called it a haunting stalker book about a haunted stalker. So it wasn't a legitimate book about grief. Sure, the concept is we want to let everyone know that when our loved ones are gone, we feel like sometimes their spirit's still with us somehow. We don't understand it. We feel like maybe they're on a different plane of existence. We feel like they're still with us. They're still in our heart. I understand the basic overarching topic that she was trying to convey to the children, but the way she did it was a little bit morbid. And most of the reviews were not good on this book whatsoever, the few that she got. And so it's like, it was just another weird, disturbing rabbit trail that you can go down in this thing. And I really feel like, I have a feeling that they're going to try to hold that out of the court case.
And she
if
wasn't
I was a defense attorney, I would try to hold that out as well, because that shows her level of psychosis. If she actually, we have to say allegedly, if she actually killed the man and then turned around and wrote a book to teach her kids not to grieve because he's still around. See, it wasn't that she was trying to help them through the grief. She said that she had them help her write the book. And I'm like, that's even more disturbing. She was trying to control the narrative. She's like,
You got to start with C, which is care. And then you start with the next C, which is continuity, which means you continue with your life and not let it get to you too bad. So she's literally telling her boys, okay, he's still with you, suck it up. I mean, if that would be a better title of the book. He's still with you, suck it up. Go ahead and take your first day of school. Go ahead and do your ball games. Go ahead and do all of the fun things without your dad and suck it up.
And she was protecting her children very good by using their real name, especially being boys. And, you know, even when they get older, they can be tracked down. And,
absolutely.
You know.
So we're going to continue on. We're going to find out if this isn't bad enough. Tammy, I'd say there's about 15 rabbit trails that we have glossed over, and we're not even halfway through. Do you think that's a good estimate?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot.
You and I have talked
there's a lot of things that she lied about. Yeah. And there's a lot of things she lied about with the paramedics and okay, I do have a question though, and it may be relevant, I don't know. But one of the reports I saw said that her husband was found lying on the floor at the foot of the bed. So what's up with that?
That, according to the report, the EMTs told her to use the sheets of the bed and to pull him onto the floor because you need a hard, flat surface for CPR.
Okay, that explains it because I didn't understand that.
Yeah. I mean, I would contend when they got there, they said it didn't look like she had been doing CPR at all.
Right.
So I'm like, so to me, I'm trying to think when they got there, was the sheet under him on the floor or was it just on the floor? You know what I mean? Because to me, if the sheet's on the floor, I mean, because she was a smaller person, it would be hard to get him down onto the floor. So that's what you do. I mean, even how many times have you seen EMTs grab a hold of the sheets and they pick up a person and put them with the sheets? I mean, the sheets are a tool, a good way for a smaller person to get a bigger person on a flat surface. No, it's a good question. It's a good question. Okay. So we're going to go over some of the documents in this case. Now, this is one of those cases that I found there's a lot of documents available already. And I find that kind of interesting because a lot of times there's nothing available until after it's done. So many people, so many comments. I will try to take a second. Hi, everybody. Hi. Everyone's shouting allegedly. Absolutely. He immediately thought it was her. I read that one. Okay. Kimberly, good evening. Glad I got a chance to join this evening. We're glad to have you, girly. Let's see. Everyone's saying hi. Kimberly says because she wasn't grieving monster. Absolutely. There were people that noticed in that video of her advertising her book. Just makes me sick. In that video of her advertising her book, she wasn't wearing her wedding ring either. How many widows do you know that stop wearing their wedding ring?
That's interesting.
Every widow I have ever known, they might eventually take it off their finger. A lot of them never do. But they put it on a necklace around their neck.
Yeah.
You know, they keep it closer and closer to them. The longer it's been, they keep it closer. You know,
yeah.
But see, that's the thing. In the courtroom, you'll see videos of her in the courtroom. And she's real good she has her head down. She does the little, like she's crying, you know, that little pretend shake, you know, and she'll kind of, like she's worried about her makeup. Never see any legitimate tears. It's always that fake cry BS that gets on my nerves. It's never really a real tear that you can actually really see that she's wailing on this. Okay, so let me go in. I want to talk about document 3. Document 3 is one of the things that are available. It gives us some dates. So I'll do a share screen just so you guys can see the documents and stop looking at my ugly mug for a minute. Let me share screen. I want document 3. Okay, Tammy, let me know when you see it.
I see it.
Okay, so this document, you can see the top of it, 3rd Judicial District Court, Summit County, State of Utah. Gives you all your basic information. It gives you the date, March 3rd. It says that on March 3rd, 2022, that the defendant, Kouri, intentionally, knowingly caused the death of another individual because she readily told the police that she made him the Moscow, what is it? Moscow Mule.
Yeah.
You can tell I'm not a drinker. I had to look that up to see what the crap it is. Okay. So let me get down here. Okay. So on March 4th, 2022 at 3:31 a.m. is when she called 911. He passed away. Now, you'll see on June 15th of 2013, they had established a premarital agreement, a prenuptial agreement, because he came to this marriage. He had been married before. It ended up in divorce because she had cheated on him, supposedly. Again, that's an allegedly. We have no idea. So he came, the only reason why I bring it up is he came to the second marriage a little more cautious, is what the point is. In September of 2020, Eric Richins discovered that the defendant had obtained and spent $250,000 home equity line of credit. So she had obtained it on their home and spent it. She had withdrawn at least $100,000 from his bank accounts and spent in excess of $30,000 on his credit card. The defendant had also been appropriating distributions made from Eric Richins' business for the purpose of making federal and state quarterly tax payments and not paying the taxes. The stolen tax payments totaled to at least $134,346. So this is in 2020, September 2020, October 2020. So the next month, he confronts her. She says he's going to pay it back. He still goes ahead and contacts both a divorce attorney and an estate planning attorney. He establishes this trust where his entire estate is going to go to his children, and it's in control of his sister until they come of age. This is where it says unknown to Eric between 2015 and 2017, the defendant had purchased at least 4 life insurance policies with aggregate death benefits of $1.9 million. These were the reason why they say they're pretty sure Eric didn't know about this is because if he had known, he would have put them into the trust that he already had with his other insurance policies that he knew about. Okay, so January 2022, his wife had filed for a new $100,000 insurance policy. It was issued on February 4th, 1 month prior to his death. She actually called to make sure it was in place before she allegedly procured the fentanyl and before she allegedly put it in his drink. Okay. This also goes in and talks about CL is the housekeeper that supposedly gave her this stuff. And it talks about how all of these, she would text and then she would delete the text. So she'd text and ask for the stuff and then she'd delete the text. I don't know how many times you have to state this. Anything you do on an electronic device, I don't give a crap how many times you think you've deleted it, the FBI and the police can still find it. I mean,
and who doesn't know that?
Knows so much. She's doing such stupid things. So, okay, so we're continuing. I'm getting a headache, so I'm looking at the screen and my eyes are going. So this goes into details on those different deleted text messages. It's between 5:19 and 6:52. You see right through here in the middle. It's talking about her wrangling around with the drug provider and where they're going to leave it and how she's going to pay and all that. So, but all that stuff is just conveniently disappeared. On March 6th, so this is, what is this, 2 days after he's dead? Yes, so March 6th. Yes. The defendant arranged for a locksmith to drill Eric Richins' safe, which contained between $125,000 and $165,000 cash. When Eric Richins' sister suggested that the defendant did not have the authority to open Eric Richins' safe because she was the trustee, the defendant became enraged and punched Eric Richins' sister in the face and neck. Sheriff deputies responded and called Eric Richins' estate planning attorney, and he backed up the sister. So she literally punched her sister-in-law 2 days. So within 2 days, she cannot get over her grief enough to get her husband's funeral together. She tried to push and get him cremated, and the family fought it. But she tried to just get him cremated and get it over with, but she couldn't get his funeral arrangements together. She couldn't get him, anything like that together. But she's able to buy a massive property, a big $2.1 million deal. She's able to sign papers and close on that. She's able to host a party at this establishment to celebrate her win, and she's also able to hire a locksmith to come and break into her husband's safe. She's also able to have a fight and punch somebody in the face. So I'm sitting here going, she has plenty of energy to do things. I mean, all of that takes mental energy. It takes, physical energy. It takes the ability to do something. Now, if you are so overcome with grief, you can't go through the funeral process. I contend you shouldn't be able to do all this BS either. Is that unreasonable, Tammy?
No.
I mean, I watched, I had to try to help my husband through his grieving process with his dad and his mother, and go through all of this funeral arrangements. And to me, I think funerals, and I told my daughter, I said, closed casket. Nobody's going to stare at me. There ain't going to be nobody there. They hated me, had nothing to do with me all my life. They're not going to come look at me and stare at me in my worst condition ever. I guarantee you they're not going to be able to put my makeup on right and fix my face. They ain't going to look at me in my worst state ever and cry over me like they like me. I said, so I've already told my daughter, closed casket, no funeral, just put me in a post hole and stick me in there. I said, don't you do all that BS. So I've already got her programmed. But to me, I watch all this, and I tried to help my husband when his father passed away. I tried to help him. The process to go through a funeral, with all the funeral home, it's a devastating, hard process. So I agree, when you're grieving, that is one of the hardest things you have to do. But have you bought a mortgage? You've got a business mortgage for $2.1 million. That is just as tedious. You know what I mean? So if she's grieving and she can't go through the burial process for her husband, you can't sign loan papers either. You know what I mean?
She wasn't grieving. She was celebrating.
Exactly. I mean, I understand that the funeral's hard, and I'm not dissing that down in any way. I'm just saying, getting a loan, getting a loan is not easy either, especially on a business and especially on a $2.1 million deal.
I noticed in the things that I was reading and watching, I noticed that a lot of the things I was reading about this and watching about this, a lot of people were wondering why the husband still stayed with her, even though he knows that she tried to poison him. But I feel like it was because of the children that he stayed with.
What he told his family, and see, this is what people said. I seen one person, and I always enjoyed his videos, and he's a highly intelligent attorney, and most of the things he has to say are pretty educated. But then he says, I don't understand. They said he was working on filing for divorce. If you're going to file for divorce, just file for divorce. And I'm sitting here going, Yeah, he was trying to get his estate established before he filed for divorce. So he was working on it. You know, when you've got a $5 million net worth, and you've got this big mega business, you've got 3 kids and a vindictive spouse, you may have to work on getting a divorce before you file for divorce. You know what I mean? So I understand why he was probably working on it and not, you know what I mean? Because he was trying to get his affairs in order before he upset the apple cart anymore. You know what I mean?
He wanted to make sure that his children were not going to be with her.
Well, and see, that's the next thing. He was probably terrified for his children. And then I had someone give a disturbing thing in one of the videos that I watched. I didn't see any documentation of it, but since it's not part of the court trial, it's hard to find life insurance policies on people, unless you kind of know where to look. But I heard the rumor mill, allegedly, she also had life insurance policies on her children. So,
yeah, it's scary.
That's terribly scary. If she actually did what she's accused of doing, you know, we still have to give her the benefit of the doubt and say allegedly. If she actually did kill her husband for the life insurance, and she's so vindictive and so out there, the fact that she has life insurance policies on each one of her 3 kids, that's kind of scary. That's really kind of scary. Kimberly says most people that are truly grieving don't even have the energy to do all that extra stuff because your mind is trapped in loss. Absolutely. I mean, you get stuck in survival mode and you just do what you have to do for that day to get through this and then get through the next thing and get through the next thing and do the next thing. And you put one step in front of each other in front of the other, and you try to remember to breathe, and you try to remember to do all the things that you have to do, and you let go of everything else because you just are in survival mode. And she didn't show that. And I realize everybody grieves differently, but I didn't like the fact that she had a child help her write a book about grief. What does the child know about it? You know, to me, I felt like it was just another way of controlling. So, okay, we've got so much more to go, and we're already an hour in, so I've really got to focus. I have this document that I want to get to. It's called the Walk the Dog document, and I'm going to... This Walk the Dog document, I was trying to share my screen, and I'm having a hard time with it tonight. And I'm sorry if I overtalk you, Tammy. There's a little bit of a lag, and so I go off on a tangent, and then I hear you say something. I was like, oh, crap. So I apologize if I overtalk you. I'm sorry. Let me know when you see this.
Yep.
Okay, this is a handwritten 6-page letter that Kouri Richins wrote in prison. Now, she says that this was actually, she tries to allegedly say that this 6-page document isn't what it looks like, and that this 6-page document is part of her new novel that she's writing about. It's called I'm just going to say To Hell and Back is what she's titling her book. And she is supposedly writing it. It's her story about all the stuff she's going through, and so she's gonna write this book. Now, this document was part of a raid in her cell. She had gone off to the medical facility or something for some, I don't know what, and while she was gone, the guards raided her cell and checked it. Now, any of you guys that have never been in prison, you will find out that you have absolutely no privacy in prison. They can search your cell any moment of any day without cause. That's part of being in jail. Well, so they did this, and they found this document. And in this document, you will see she is literally line by line feeding information of what her mother is supposed to say in court, what her brother is supposed to testify to. She is literally writing out everything for them to say. She is trying to prove that her husband had a drug addiction. So she literally says, now we need to connect the fentanyl to his trips to Mexico, and this is how we're going to do it. Okay, so she makes up this whole story, and then right down here, can you see this little star, Tammy, where she makes the little star?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's made out this whole narrative of how Eric was a secret drug addict. And then she says, reword this however he needs to. Just make the point and just include it all. The connection has to be made with Mexico and the drugs. Ronnie will have the messages to prove Eric confided in him about getting high. And then she goes on and talks about there's different pictures on her phone that they can use to prove it. Okay, so she's literally coaching them on how to do this. Okay, and then she says, take vague notes of all of this so you'll remember before you walk the dog. Okay, so she's literally saying, read this and then destroy this. Here's what you need to say. Take vague notes if you need to. Reword it however you need to. But this is what you need to say. Now, this is what I want you to look through. I'm going down through. I'm just scanning while I talk. I'm not reading each and every one. Here's page 6. Here she's talking about so-and-so's just jealous of her. Probably her ex-sister-in-law is probably what she's talking about. But down here she says, will you buy a box of Crest white strips, open them up, put them in the envelope, and have Sky, which is her ex-attorney, give them to me. You can tell her what's in the envelope. I'm sure she won't care. I'll make sure they can't be found in my cell. My teeth are yellow from so much coffee and tea all day. Frowny face, I love you, I love you, I love you. Hang in there. We're getting there slowly. Okay? So she's literally trying to get the person she's writing this to. This is a letter to her mom. She's literally coaching witnesses, telling them what to say. She's literally building a narrative, a false narrative around this so-called fake drug addict that is her husband, supposedly. She's telling them what to say, when to say. Here's where you can find pictures that we can use to back up the story. And then she says, oh, hey, by the way, buy something and send it to me through my attorney. Sky was her attorney. Okay. Sky won't care. She literally asked her mother to send contraband through her attorney to herself. So she's assuming, one, that nobody's ever going to read this because nobody's going to read her mail. She's assuming that she's going to be able to lie to everybody. She said this is part of a novel. This is a fiction novel. Anything in there sound like a novel to you? The only fiction in there is the fact that she's making up this false narrative about her husband's former drug use. That's the only fiction in there, is the narrative that she's trying to push her brother and her mother to say. Now, but she says this is part of her new book. Now, beyond all of that, she is assuming and trying to say that her attorney will do something illegal for her. If they did the Crest white strips and sent it through her attorney would get in serious, horrible trouble for this. And she just assumes that her attorney's willing to do something illegal for her. So she assumes nobody's going to read her mail because she's the queen of the world. And, you know, the earth doesn't revolve around the sun. The sun doesn't revolve around the earth. Everything revolves around Kouri Richins. You know, Riches. Sorry. Everything revolves around Kouri. The sun doesn't revolve around us. The earth doesn't revolve around the sun. Nothing revolves around anything but Kouri. Yeah, because heaven forbid her teeth are yellow. Who gives a crap what her teeth look like? She's in freaking prison, you know? But she's going to, what I find even most disturbing, and if you think everything I said is false, okay, Sonova, you have just got on the bandwagon and you've not given this lady a fair shake. You're taking everybody's evidence and you've got your opinion. I want you to stop and look at this 6-page note. She's supposedly been in prison for a while now when she wrote this note. Okay. 6 full pages. She never once asks about her little boys. Let that sink in. She writes 6 pages, rambling nonsense, trying to get everybody behind her, on her side. She even says in here, she's trying to make her husband look bad. She even says in here, well, you make sure the cops know and everyone knows that he hasn't been to church in 13 years. Who cares? What does that have to do with anything? She's just doing everything she can to make him look bad. So much for the grieving widow routine. I guess she can't say that anymore. Now, if that's not disturbing enough, there's more documents. I'm not going to go through them. I've run out of time. There's so much more I'd like to talk to you about. I'm going to end this with reading you a few of the text messages that she has sent to her boyfriend. Okay? And then, Tammy, I'll let you close out with whatever you have. So, February of 2022. I forgot to do my share screen. Can you see?
I can see it.
Okay. If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, you would? She texted her lover this in February, just weeks before Eric died. So just a couple weeks before her husband died, she goes, if I asked you to marry me, would you? Okay. Then she said this. This is what's even more disturbing. I just want to lay on the couch and cuddle you, watch a murder documentary, and snuggle. Then 2 weeks later, she says something. If this isn't the most damning evidence out there, I don't know what is. She says, life is going to be different, I promise. I hate your hard days. I wish I could be there to turn them around for you. Can I try on Friday? Give me a few days. Hang in there till then, please. What happened on Friday? By Friday, her husband would be dead. That's only a few of these rambling messages. She talks about in others how much money she's going to come into soon. All of her money problems are going to be over. They're going to live in this big fancy house that she's bought. They're going to fix it up and have a big event center there, and they're going to live happily ever after and raise some kids and have millions of dollars. There's all kinds of stuff there. But she said, "Can you give me till Friday? Things will be better by Friday." And by Friday, her husband was dead. So I'm going to leave that as the final closing things. And let me just tell you, there were 3 or 4 other documents we could have gone through. There was about 10 more rabbit trails we could go down. But I think this gives you a good overview of this case. Let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments if you're interested in this case and you want me to follow it through to its conclusion. Because if you guys aren't interested in this, then I will go off on something else. But I personally want to know how the court case goes, because I really feel like there's still a chance that she could get off with this, because if the jury doesn't hear about they're trying to fight, and this is something that I get so aggravated. I think I was talking to you, Tammy, when I said it. The defense uses the same tactic, and they try to discredit the witness. And the witness is the lady that supplied her the drugs. And they're like, "Well, you can't take her word for anything. She's a felon and a drug user, a known drug user, and a felon." And I'm sitting here going, who else are you going to go to? I mean, she isn't going to go to this fine, upstanding, pious person. I made a joke. I was like, she ain't going to go to the Pope, to get drugs. Who else are you going to go to get drugs? You're going to go to somebody that has a history of drug use, has a possible felon. You're going to go to someone. So they're trying to discredit the witness by saying, well, she's a felon, so she's not credible. But I'm sitting here going, to me, that's the stupidest defense ever, because who else are you going to go to get your drugs to kill your husband with? I'm like, I'm going to go to the Pope and say, Father, I've sinned. I want to kill my husband. Would you give me dope so I can follow through with this sin and kill my husband?
Right.
No, I mean, it's just ridiculously stupid. But see, that's the thing. If they don't get to hear that, if somehow the defense fights enough to where they don't get her as a witness, if somehow they fight and don't put in some of this background information, fighting over the money, if they somehow keep out the fact that she wrote a children's book, that's just horrendous. I mean, if they keep out enough of that background information, and the jury doesn't know, because the jury can only give an opinion on the stuff that they've been told. There has been so many cases where people, the whole world knows this person's guilty, and they've got off because the jury's not told all the information, and then the jurors are interviewed afterwards, and they're like, if I'd have known this, I wouldn't have said yes. I would have got him guilty, or I would have got him innocent. So to me, it's still in a very dangerous phase where this woman could get off. And I'm curious. I'm going to personally follow it. I would like to know if you guys are interested in me making videos on it. But to me, I feel like I'm interested in it because I feel like I'm interested in the judicial system. I want to know if things are going to follow through, if it's going to turn out the way I think it is. I want to see what the jury's going to think, what the jury's going to see. Kimberly says, please follow this case. I will do it. I will make videos if you guys are interested in it. But to me, Tammy, have I missed anything? I mean, there's so much I haven't talked about, but have I got the high points of this? I could talk for another hour. I mean, you and I've talked for hours on this case, but I try to keep these as close to an hour or less as possible, and we're way over.
I believe they're going to have to keep a lot of stuff out in order for her to win, because there's so much with the, all the insurances and then the letter from jail and the text messages. You think they can possibly leave all of that out? Because to me, just any one of them, any one category would be convincing to me.
Right. So, well, and you also need to find out, too, that her whole defense team quit on her. About 7 months ago, her whole defense team stepped out, and she's got a whole new defense team now. And they said that it was, they gave a vague answer, blah, 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 blah. They said, well, it's irreconcilable, blah, blah, basically irreconcilable differences, like they say in divorce. But basically that, I contend it was probably the walk the dog papers, where she's contending, trying to say that her attorney would smuggle contraband for her.
And didn't you tell me too that when she wrote "walk the dog," it was code for the people to destroy the letter?
That's one theory, that the walk the dog phrase is to read this and destroy it. If you listen to Dr. Grand, I think it is, or Dr. Grand, I don't remember how you say his name. That was his theory, that's what that means. And so to me, there's no way you can construe those documents as a new book. If it is, she sucks as a writer. I mean, she absolutely sucks if that's her writing style. I've written and published 15 books, some of them traditional, some of them independent, some of them with my own publishing. I have written dozens and dozens more stories, short stories and things, fiction and nonfiction, and I have never followed the writing processes that she claims she has. I'm just like, I don't even understand. I have written songs during my grieving process. I have written a little bit of poetry during my grieving process. I have never been able to write a book while I grieve. I've been able to write little short pieces of agony, and then I have implemented them later into books. If you read my Whispers of the Mind book, which is actually my one life coaching book for victims' family members, there is a few short excerpts of some of my grief for some trauma I was going through. So the fact that she was able to raise her kids, bury her husband, grieve, write this book, publish it, go on this marketing tour, I could never, I as a writer, I'm not saying it's impossible. I, as a writer with 15 published books, could never do that, even though I've had 15 published books. I couldn't do it. And so all of that just sounds illegitimate to me. It doesn't seem like it's possible. Okay, so guys, I appreciate you watching. Tammy, you have any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just one. If she would be acquitted, would she get the insurance money?
Possibly. Of the 4, unless, see, she's got several other cases up against her. She's got several charges of fraud, and
so they probably fight it. They probably fight it then.
And then she forged her husband's signature on several things, or on some things, to get the loans that see, this is the whole thing. Her business wouldn't even be if she hadn't taken money from her husband's side of things. So everything that she did, if he ever withdrew the money, she wouldn't have a business. So it's kind of like all of those other trials and litigations are still ahead of her. So if they find out that these things were purchased through illegitimate means, then no, she wouldn't get them. So those 4 things that he supposedly didn't know about, they would have the burden of proof to prove that he didn't know about it and she forged his signature on those. If they couldn't prove that, then yes, she could actually still get the $1.9 million in life insurance.
Don't you think they might contest it though? I mean,
they will fight to the death for it. Yeah, I mean, they will, because in reality, the insurance company doesn't want to pay out. The insurance company never wants to pay out. You know, so if they can find any minute loophole, they won't pay out. So I really don't see her getting it. If she's acquitted and she fights tooth and toenail and proves that her husband did know about it and it's all legitimate, then she has a slight, I'd say maybe a 10% chance of getting it. But since all of this other stuff's happened, and they have proven if they prove in a court of law that she forged anything, then she's not going to get that insurance, so, but yeah, I don't think she's going to get that.
Good.
Okay. Anything else?
Oh, that's it. But for me.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bones Coffee Company. You can forget about boring coffee when you drink Bones Coffee. Not only do they offer a variety of flavors such as strawberry cheesecake and maple bacon, they are a family-owned company that puts great detail not only in their coffee, but in the artwork that comes on each individual bag. Bones Coffee has a coffee club that will deliver your favorite coffee to your door every month. If that wasn't enough, they also have some amazing swag to offer. Check out Bones Coffee Company today. I'll have my affiliate links in the show notes for you.